So my name is Frank Meeink, but Meeink spelled very weird. Meeink is Meeink, and you can find me on Instagram or Twitter. So who I am? So I'm a former neo-Nazi. I was a neo-Nazi from 1988 to 1994. I got out. They made a loosely based movie and wrote a couple books about me. I've been studying race since that time. When I was in the neo-Nazis, I studied race, and then when I got out, I studied for the last 25 years on how empathy is the key to ending racism in an individual. I also do interventions on people in hate groups. So I've been doing that for the last 20 years, getting guys out of the hate groups.
So what does that intervention look like? I'm sure it's a very emotional, very stressful experience. Could you kind of walk through, I'm sure you'll have to glaze over the process a little bit, but just kind of go into a little bit what those look like, what the process is.
A lot of the times an intervention on a guy is more or less us trying to point out where in his life where his life is falling short now because of his beliefs, right? Because we can't just, if we just went and just argued beliefs, you can go all day. But if we just talk about how, like, where's your life at right now? You know, you thought you were going to be the next Hitler, and you're on probation, and your probation officer has me coming and talking to you. Like, where's your life at, right? So, and then just getting to show them people that they hate. And I've always been able to find the right people to bring around. Say I find a neo-Nazi who's just had a nasty breakup with a girlfriend. I'll make sure I find a black guy that's going to help me with it, that went through or can talk about that. And it's boom, it's instant, man. It's instant. And there's one of them on YouTube, actually, if you look it up. Frank Meeink, Meeink TV show, and you'll see my old TV show that I used to do interventions on.
Awesome.
So,
right.
But I want to talk about the thing that I know that is the truth here, is that the police have used their lobbyists and their union to move from civil servants. See, there's civilians, which are us, the people, and then there's our elected officials above us who we put there, and then there's civil servants who are supposed to be beneath us. That's the way democracy works. Well, over the last couple of years with lobbyists and their unions, the police have moved above us, in between, and they broke democracy. This is true. How did they do it? With the war on drugs, kicking in black people's doors, pulling them out of cars to search them all the time. You know, they used that law and they broke this system. There's 2.4 million people in prison because of the way they broke it. And because they search our cars and pull us out and bring them fake stuff, drug. Breonna Taylor, everyone keeps saying, let's talk about the no-knock warrants. No, it's a no-knock drug warrant that got her killed. A no-knock drug warrant. So if we eliminated drug warrants, what would that look like? It would be beautiful. That means cops cannot pull us out of the cars no more. They can't say, we want to search your car for drugs. They can't bring the dogs around us. They have to just give you a ticket and let you go. And we're also going to save officers' life, because now guys are not going to be all freaked out about going back to on parole, shooting it out with the cops because they have a half ounce of coke in their car. It saves officers' life because we know you're just going to give us a ticket. Stay out of our lives. Stop breaking the Fourth Amendment. Police are only trained on not how to respect our Fourth Amendment. They're only trained on how to trick us out of getting things from our Fourth Amendment. And that's what we need to stop right now. That would be the one thing they could surrender, to say, okay, now we can talk and have peace.
Awesome. I know I have to ask because people will want to know. Could you talk a little bit about your relationship with the film and the book, American History X?
Yeah, so American History X, you know, no one will ever fess up that if anyone wrote it about me, except for the director did. He kind of one time had mentioned me. So they did their own thing. That's why there's a lot of stuff that's different about really what happened and who I am. They don't have the same name. It's Derek Vineyard, but my name is really Frank Meeink. And if you Google it or IMDb me even, it's a trivia question on IMDb. So the book was a different process. The book, I went with book writers and fact finders, and we went to every location in my life that something happened. And we, like Illinois, I was in Illinois for a while. I was in the Department of Corrections in Illinois. All these different crazy places, and we wrote my book called Autobiography of Recovering Skinhead.
Thank you. One big question for me, particularly because you work with white supremacists, this might be a little bit of a loaded question, but do you find, as someone who is still sort of working within that community, I guess is the best way to put it, do you find that you are working with people with police connections? Do you find that in your opinion, is there a police connection to white supremacist groups in large enough numbers to warrant discussing?
Not on the work that I do now do I know the officers, but from when I was a neo-Nazi, I know guys that were neo-Nazis with me that have become cops. And some of them have been found out and some got kicked off forces. I think they just moved to another force, which is bad. This is one of our problems we have, where cops go from force to force to force. Some have lost their jobs, and but there are still ones that are absolutely and are still totally involved that are neo-Nazis, that are police officers, that are long-standing police officers now. In doing the work I do now with the neo-Nazis, the one thing I have to be clear with is that I don't want nobody to go to prison, even neo-Nazis. Like, I'd rather help them than go to prison. So I've never been a guy I've never helped law enforcement to put anyone in prison, but I did for years help law enforcement on all of their hate crimes training. And I became accustomed to, and that's how I started to learn about the Fourth Amendment trick. They never talk about how important it is to us. They just talk about how it's important to trick us into letting us search our cars. And it's always, once a police officer is searching your car, he's not trying to help you anything. He's trying to build the case. Instant he pulls you out of that car, that man is looking to get you in the back of his squad car, get you in the county jail, and get you booked. That's why he's searching your car. And that's what we need to stop right now. We need it all to stop, because it's mostly portrayed on black people. And here's the you know who they're not kicking in the door? The family that started the Oxycontin epidemic, that family in the Purdue company, we ain't kicking in their doors. We ain't going around their houses with drug-sniffing dogs and shit. No, we only do it to mostly poor and minorities. It's the way the police got above us in the system, and they broke it. We have private prisons in this country now. We are in fucking trouble. But the American people can fix this.
So, how do you think we can fight white supremacy? Perhaps if someone's an ally and either knows someone who is an avowed white supremacist, or maybe even someone who shares a lot of those beliefs but perhaps might not be aware of it.
On the neo-Nazis and the racist guys that, I've done an intervention on a guy one time. His daughter was marrying a black man, and he was just an old school, as he thought, old school racist, right? And so, and I happily did an intervention on him, and it absolutely worked. He went to his daughter's wedding. He was part of his daughter's wedding. He refused to go until we had this meeting, and it was pretty tremendous. But the reason I want to bring him up is because I don't worry about him. We shouldn't worry about him. That's not the racism that we're trying to fight here. That's just ignorance. The racism that we're trying to fight is the private prison industry, and the lockup rate of people for non-violent drug offenses, just to give a dude a case. See, because once they get a person locked into the system, now he's on probation. If he can't pay off his probation, then he has a better chance of getting violated, and then he can go upstate. And it all starts with these little drug convictions. And so I don't worry about the guy saying the N-word. He's just ignorant, and hopefully God will affect him like he did me. I don't worry about him that much anymore as I worry about the systematic of racism.
Got it. I guess one big question I have, take me through your personal journey and what the catalyst was to turn from a white supremacist in the 80s to someone at a Black Lives Matter protest in 2020. That's quite a sea change. Can you take me through the catalyst of that?
I'll tell you, just up to this right now is one of the proudest proudest times I've ever been on a prison bus was being arrested here. And I've been on a couple of them in my life, but I never was so proud of all the people I was with. It was just amazing. So to say that, I grew up actually around mostly black people. I grew up in like West Philly, Southwest Philadelphia. I went to an all-black school. I fist fought a lot. That kind of got me into the skinheads. But when I got into prison, and I got so high up into the neo-Nazis, and anyone could just research me. I'm not talking by ego. I'm ashamed of what I've done in that movement. But I got really popular, really big in it for a long time. And when I was in prison, I started playing football with a lot of black dudes. I was in the Chicago prison system. I was a young 17-year-old kid in the maximum security adult prison. I was in the same prison with John Wayne Gacy, a serial killer. Like, I'm in that same prison. But anyway, I got to play football with a lot of these kids. And man, when you play football and play sports with a bunch of kids, man, you just start to change. Like, we talk, this is 1992, 93, 94. Man, I would, like, black kids that I would get done playing basketball with, like, we'd always talk about girls and what's going on in life. And I couldn't talk to the older Aryans, my older gang, about that stuff, because I was a young buck, but I was also a very highly protected person because of who I was on the outside. But I just noticed that more days out of any other times, I always wanted to be around like G or Jello or Tony, the guys that like made me laugh. Like they would just make me laugh all the time. And, so when I was getting out of prison, I kind of had this little bit of this feeling that I was kind of cool in the black and the Asian and the Latino. Like I can get that, we're all equal, but I'm still a neo-Nazi, and I still want to be a neo-Nazi at the time. I'm getting out of prison, I'm 19 years old. That's all the clout I have in the world is this neo-Nazi world. So I continued just to hate the Jews. That was my one last thing I could hold on to. And then I had a big swastika on my neck at the time. So if you ever see an old picture, I used to have a big swastika tattoo right here. I got it laser surgered off, and you can still see little dots of it and stuff. But I had my skinhead on my knuckles lasered off. Anyhow, I couldn't get a job worth nothing, man. This is not good people skills. You know what I mean? We get a swastika and I have tattoos all on my head, aggravated kidnapping. And a Jewish man gave me a job at an antique show, carrying out antique furniture. And this man just was a decent man. He was very Jewish. And my buddy told me before I got the job, he goes, "You're the guy that owns the company. He's a Jew." He only needed me for 3 days. So I said, "I don't care. I don't got to talk to him, do I? Can I just work for him?" And he's like, "Yep." I told Keith about you. He said, "I told him, I know some neo-Nazi needs a job. Keith is a Jewish man." He goes, "I don't give a rat's ass what he believes. Just don't break my furniture." And I showed up and I worked for this man. And then after that, he gave me a full-time job because he liked the way I worked. And I used to drive around with this man all the time, go pick up furniture all around Philly and New York. And he would teach me about antiques and about business and about life. And we'd drive in trucks, and I would read the O.J. Simpson trial was going on at the time, and I would read it to him. And as we were driving, we'd talk about life. And being a neo-Nazi, I'm an egomaniac with no self-esteem. So when I break shit, I always go, "Oh, I'm so stupid." Well, I used to do that all the time. And one time I broke something in front of this Jewish man at a marble top table, which I shouldn't have broke. Stupidity on my part. And so I told Keith, "I'm so stupid. I'm so sorry that I broke that." And Keith came over to me, this Jewish man, Keith Brookstein, grabbed me by the back of my neck and pulled me closer and said, "Stop saying you're stupid, you fucking idiot. Clean it up and let's go." And he unloaded on me in the drive home that day. He unloaded me. He's like, "I hate when you say you're stupid." He's like, "You're one of the smartest people I've ever met." He goes, "Frank, smart people can fake being dumb, but dumb people can't fake being smart. You're just smart, Frank."
That's amazing.
And as I was walking away that day, it was the final day where I was like, this is it. Like, God has proven me wrong. Like, human nature, science, and God. Because as a neo-Nazi, when I was just getting out of all this, I would drive down the streets of Philly, and I see a guy, a black dude, selling food stamps on a street corner, 50 cents on the dollar. That's how they sell. 50 cents on the dollar. Means he's standing selling food stamps. And I would say, and I'd be out of the movement, but I would say, well, maybe the movement was right. And I go, wait a minute, my mom does that. My mom's been selling her food stamps my whole life. But she just doesn't do it on the street corner. So I'm going to judge this man over the same actions my mom does. Or an Asian person who cut me off and driving, Asian driver. And I'm like, wait a minute, my aunt hit a cow. Like, how do you hit a fucking cow, man? Like, they don't have deer, they don't jump in front of your fucking car. Like, the cow was already there and she hit it. So maybe everyone are a bad driver. Like, and I had to start breaking that down. And that was 27 years ago. Now it's, my life is beautiful. And I have children that are not white. And I'm in amazing relationships. And I have men in my life who are not of my color, who are mentors to me that guide my life. And men who are not white who guide my life and how I should be a good human being.
That's awesome. So you talked quite a bit about systemic racism. We talked quite a bit about the Fourth Amendment and how that ties into the war on drugs and the racial issues that are involved with the war on drugs. What do you think America needs to hear the most right now?
Right now we need all drug warrants stopped. That's just the police, with them being the police being above us now and breaking the system of democracy. Again, it's a true story. There's 2.4 million people in prison. They broke the chain of democracy. Once we can get them back down, and what America needs to remember is white people, and I'm sorry to say this to my white friend. For a long time, we got into the life raft of America, and we pulled the fucking ladders out of the water for everybody else to get in. And it's time for we the people to put the fucking life raft back in, get the police off their fucking pedestal, because they're civil servants. They should be paddling the boat for us, really. That's their job. And we need to put the ladders back in the water, keep everybody in this fucking life raft, and then know where we sail off to? Enlightenment. Straight enlightenment. That's our next frontier as a human race, is enlightenment. And it starts by just treating everyone equal and get us all in that life raft.